individually. We are very excited about today's book signing with Sister Ellie Mae. And our apologies for the delay in starting. We wanted to make sure everything was just right when she came. And then we got a little bit, the sister is so down to earth. We all, got coffee and getting into our conversation. And oh my goodness, she's got a plane to catch, right, at 6 o'clock. So we really have to have a hard cutoff at 3:30. I just want everybody to know, why we might have to speed things along. But in the meantime, I'm going to cut my comments real short so we can bring her up and everybody can enjoy. We're going to start off the event with our traditional libation ceremony. So if you'll please join us in acknowledging our ancestors are already here. So we're just going to acknowledge our ancestors in a ceremony called libation, which is a non-religious ritual that we take part in to give thanks to those who came before us. So could you turn the lights on, please? It's very important for us to take time every day, every chance we can, to thank the foundation on which we stand, those shoulders we stand on. There are so many who died, sacrificed, laid down their very lives so that we could be here. They provided us with a model so that we can live up to that. They cried for us. They prayed for us, and they hoped for us to be here. So the least we can do is call out their names for those who are comfortable. Others may want to just say to themselves their names. And with that thought, with those words, they live. They live through our breath. This particular ceremony, we're pouring water into a plant, which represents the cycle of life. So as we're pouring water into the plant is giving back to us in the form of oxygen. So that's why we pour water into the plant, to symbolize giving back. It's hard to give back as much as we have given, as much as we have gotten. It's hard to give back. But at least symbolically, just in remembrance. So feel free to say the name of your ancestor. I'll pour the water, and then we can say Ashe, which is a verbal word, meaning will it be, or it means to make it so, make it manifest.
Moving side Garvey. Marcus Garvey.
Ashe. Regine Keys.
Ashe.
David Flowers.
Ashe.
Ellen Peterson.
Ashe.
Linda Simpson.
Ashe.
Albert Keys.
Ashe.
Elliot Jefferson.
Ashe.
Clinton Burt.
Ashe.
Nat Turner.
Ashe.
Harriet Tubman.
Ashe.
El-Hajj Malik Al-Shabbat.
Ashe.
Frederick Douglass.
Ashe.
Sojourn Truth.
Ashe.
Queen Nzinga.
Ashe.
Ya Osatwa.
Ashe.
Marvin Jefferson.
Ashe.
Okay, oh my goodness. And once again, as always, we run out of time. We never have enough.
Great.
But that's why we have to do this on a regular basis. And it doesn't have to be anyone that anybody else recognizes except you. Because they were responsible, they were recognized. Something about the way they live their lives is the reason that you're here. That you keep that time to yourself is acknowledged. Okay, we appreciate that. I just wanted to get a few housekeeping details out of the way. First thing, my omniscient staff who is able to read my mind and do things that I don't always necessarily say, and not listen to me when I'm saying something that sounds crazy. So please give staff a round of applause. Oh my goodness. You know, this good help, I'm so thankful that they found me, okay? In some cases, in spite of me, they're taking care of business. We got Kamika on the camera, Vijaria on crutches. Okay, she's here anyway. Brother Greg works through the week, and we know Katrina's here in spirit. She just has her baby boy that's here. We're so excited. I'm going to post the pictures real soon. But I just spoke with her the other day. She's doing extremely well. She's ecstatic, of course, our first child. I also want to make sure nobody parked across the street. We don't want anybody to get towed across the street. So this side of the street is fine, or kitty corner is fine. And
in the front, right here?
Yeah.
That's fine?
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. We've got construction thing. All good. If you need to use the facilities, the washroom right around the corner, door number 3. Let's see what else I'm forgetting. I wanted to say a few words about Afriware in general. You know, Afriware prides itself on working with artists, authors. There's another A word I need. Artists, authors, and we'll think of it soon, to provide a platform so that they can give us their messages of culture. They're preserving the culture for us. And now in our 17th year, one of the things that we are making sure to mention, and my mother would be so proud, is that, you know, it takes a lot of finances, okay, in order to do that. And we have made most of our events free, okay. We want to continue to do that. And in that vein, we just ask for those who are able, we know that the economic time is extremely challenging, but some are able. Okay, so for those who are able, we ask you to contribute to keeping this institution going. You know, it's been a very challenging couple of years, okay. You know that about 6 or 7 bookstores closed in the last 5 years, which is really a sad commentary on that business, you know. And while some may say, well, we're not reading, you know, I know that's not true, right? Because Walgreens and Sam's Club, they keep hearing things, okay? If we weren't reading, right? Okay. So you know we're reading, it has to be something else. You know, it has to be something in the process, in the inner workings, that are disconnecting these great authors like the one we have today from the readership. It's something about exposure. And with this particular author, Sister Banks, I am ashamed to say that I was introduced to her work, you know, after her series is complete. I'm ashamed to say it. I'm so thankful to my friends who shared it with me and stayed on me and said, no, wait a minute, you know, all fiction is the same. Because I know some of you were at that place too, right? This conversation you've heard before, or I read history, right? I read about our culture because why? We didn't get it in school. So you're just trying to catch up. So I don't have time to read that fiction, right? I know you've said it, I've said it, I've talked to you about it.
Yes.
And what happened, right, along the way in generalizing over a genre is what we miss with these gems, these treasure chest authors who took the history and mixed it up with some serious thrown down science fiction, forward looking, you know what I'm saying, futuristic, smashed it all together into some serious lessons that we can use for today. And that I miss, and I so apologize for that, because that is, you have 12 in your series, and we should have been right there with you. You know what I'm saying? So I wanted to share that with you all, because when bookstores fall by the wayside, we cannot, don't let people blame it solely on the people. Okay, we can say, okay, in some instances I was only thinking about borders, okay, I didn't think about Afriware. That's part of it. Another part is the bookseller. Okay, so the bookseller gets into a certain corner, right, and not looking around and say, wait a minute, what's new here? And yeah, there might be a lot of garbage, and we know there's a lot of garbage too in the fiction area, but it ain't all that way. There's also some garbage in the fiction and the non-fiction area. Let's get that straight, right? But as booksellers, it's our goal, our job, to sift through all of that and bring you the best, okay? So I definitely have to take responsibility for it. But the third piece, okay, this sister, Ellie Banks, is a model for it because she could have easily just said, look, I'm only going to Borders, I don't care, right? And she could have been justified because bookstores like this don't even have the books. Right before we knew about it, don't even have the book, so she could have been justified. But no, right? She kept hope alive for, a sister, you know what I'm saying? I just want to help myself because you said, no, we're going to the black bookstores. You told your publicist. Now, every author doesn't do that. Some authors, they leave everything to the publishing houses and to their publicists, and you know they're going to take care of their people. But it's up to the author to say, wait a minute, I got my own people, and I remember who got me started. So if it wasn't this particular store, it was other black bookstores, and I'm going to make sure that when I'm in town, I'm going to the black bookstore. And thanks to our ancestors cleaning up things along the way. You know what I'm saying? We mean well sometimes, but our ancestors, they clean up the mess. And finally I got it. It's like, okay, let me just open up this awakening book. And I said, oh my God. Oh my God, what have I been missing? So I said all that to say, thank you, Sister Banks. Thank you for hanging in there tough and bringing it on, direct and daring. This sister's so bad. She was determined to connect with our people. She started off in romance, and one of her dreams, okay, was romance because she knew that that's where we was reading at the time. But when that got stale for her, she said, okay, where else can I go to reach my people? Then she jumped all the way over to science fiction. I mean, what? That's a creative genius that we are about to go. That's what this sister, that's only part of it. She has so much more, but I'm going to just shut up and sit down. Please stand up. We're going to stand up and we're going to give a whole round of applause.
Well, thank you so much for coming out on a really beautiful Sunday afternoon. I know I'm competing with the weather, so, but first let me just say I so appreciate Nzinga, and I so appreciate the folks that are here, and the spirit of being able to walk into an establishment like this. This is a treasure. It is a community treasure. We have to keep our black bookstores alive. And so, you know, please don't go to Amazon and Borders and all that. Come here, ask this sister to order it for you if you don't see it, whatever the book may be, whatever if it's a CD, DVD, whatever, try to come here first. And, I'll say this to you on a very serious note. When I first began, I wasn't being carried in Barnes and Nobles and Borders and Walmart and all that kind of stuff. I mean, they really didn't, they weren't friendly to us. And so when I began, I was going up and down the East Coast, I would hit Caribou. And Caribou Bookstore had like 6 bookstores in that DC area. They're gone. Can I tell you, I wept when they closed the doors of Caribou. They sold that store out to the walls, all the shelving, okay? There were like 3 black bookstores in Philly. I think it's only 1 standing now, okay? I mean, when I go around the country, I would stop first at the Shrine of the Black Madonna in Atlanta, okay? That's where I went in Detroit, my homegirl in Detroit. We were like, we gotta go to the shrine. And the publisher would be like, no, but we have you set up at B&M. I'm like, but I'm going to the shrine the day before. You know? And I mean, it was a big fight all the time. And the reason why I'm telling you, see, this space is more than a bookstore. This is a meeting house. This is a place where I could have closed door sessions, as I call them. I can really tell you what's in the books, but if you come across the stick of borders, I'm going to give you the edited version. You know, because I got to, you know, stick and move. I can't say everything I want to say. So this afternoon, I'm like, okay, we got the closed door session going on. It's really important, and when I go to New York, I'm at Human, right there in Harlem, across the street from the Apollo. And we pack the house, have 125 people in there, we close the door, and it's like, look, okay, this is what's up. And I think that's so important because fiction, I just want to put this out here on a political basis. This series is a political series. It says vampire on the top. A lot of times people see that word and they're like, oh no, I ain't trying to read nothing about no demons. Well, let me back up. It ain't about demons. I mean, I got demons in there. no question. But they're political metaphors for the things that you will find in society. And we have to have a place where we can talk about these things. During oppressive times, and I started this during the Bush administration, okay? During oppressive times where your rights have been rolled back more than at any time in history except for when we were in slavery, okay, when we're talking about the Patriot Act 1 and 2 and all that kind of stuff. And if you go back in history, people like Charles Dickens, they didn't come out with a nonfiction book because they would put them in the gallows, okay? Or any of the great Shakespeare, he could have come out against the crown and they would have had him burned at the stake, okay? You will find that during oppressive times, truth will be in your fiction novels. So look for artists who hide it in music. They'll hide it in fiction. You'll now see it in comics with, you know, and then it say, well, we were just playing. See, the stuff in here, if I wrote this on a straight nonfiction basis, would have Homeland Security looking for you. Okay? Because I talk about things like the Masons and how they do how they have laid out the grids in Washington, D.C. and Philadelphia. The two birthplaces of our nation. I talk about things like ancient Kemet and our spirituality coming out of that. And it's because, you know, when I was in school, I'm reading stuff or seeing stuff about our ancient homeland, Egypt, which is Kemet, land of the blacks. Okay, let's get it clear on the linguistics and semantics. Represented as something evil. Right. The mummy. The curse of this and the curse of that. Well, yeah, this probably was curses on the tombs because they were not trying to get raided by you know who. So it's like I have things in here because I very much wanted to teach. I have things in here about the hypnotic quality of music today. How music is used to hypnotize your mind and to make you think in terms of negativity. And I use the metaphor of vampirism to show how people are turned into predators against their own community. But I do not leave out the fact, you know, I got some black vampires in here, and it's called the Vampire Huntress series, because she hunts the vampires. The sister is not a vampire, all right? And her family, what I did was I put cultural markers in there, things like that are very familiar to us. Like we all got people in our family that have dreams. That's a mother seer. Somebody says, you know, I dreamt a fish and somebody's pregnant, and they be right. You know?
We're gonna play that number.
I mean, yeah, or play that number, baby. Right? We've got people in our family, so the concept of having somebody that can see is not foreign. And what I did was I gave each guardian in here a special extrasensory power, because I wanted to show that many times we don't know our own power. We don't acknowledge our own power. We have been, in the Western society, disconnected from our intuitive power and our abilities. Many times religion that is not indigenous to us gets put on us and tells us it's wrong. And I'm not against anything. I mean, the Creator is the Creator, the Most High is the Most High. You know, but I'm saying that there were things that were done in our passage through this land that stripped us of some things that were our cultural identifiers, like pouring libations. That's what I have Marlene do before every show in the books. The mother seer will step on stage before the young woman who's the huntress performs, and she pours libations. And then she does a prayer over the audience, because she knows that there are vampires out there, and she says a prayer to protect the audience so that, you know, as they leave the club or wherever, they may have some semblance of protection. But the same token is, you know, our people, we're inclusionists. We merge it all together, we mix it all together, and we make it gumbo, right? This same woman who may pour libations will do the 23rd Psalm walking down an alley at the same time. So it's what I want to show our people is that, you know, like, we're the original spiritual people, and we bring it all together. You know, whether it's coming from Yoruba, whether we're coming from, you know, Kemetic, you know, traditions, whatever our traditions are, Christian traditions, Muslim, whatever. And again, that's the whole concept that's in this story, is the 12 tribes. That's bringing together all the different, you know, religions that, you know, we deal under shamanic, you know, practices, all that, to fight evil. Because the bottom line is, we have to fight this evil force that has come against, you know. And so we can't be all separated and scattered about, no, you believe in this, no, I believe in that, you Seventh-day Adventist, no, no. We don't need to deal with all that. It's like coming together. And I think too, when you look at what the propaganda that we've been taught is that we don't read. Now, there was a study that came out in 1992 that said romances, this is why, I mean, one of the reasons I got shelved in romance when I first came out. It said that in 1992, romance was 60% of all books sold in the United States. All books was romance. And 1/3 of the readers were African American and Latina. So you know how big a slice of the pie that is? But at the time when they did the study, there were no black romances. How about that? Odyssey Press was paying authors, it was small black press, independent out of North Jersey. They were paying people $500 a manuscript because they couldn't compete. But we as African American readers had put Danielle Steele in her Rolls Royce. I mean, think about it, Jackie Collins. I mean, okay, now I'm a priest now. I mean, I gotta speak on this because, so what happened was, I was at a romance conference. I went to a conference in New York, and yeah, come on there. You wanna come on in? You know, yeah, you know your family, you can come in late. So,
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, man. Yeah. But I went to a conference in, I think it was 94 or 95. In any event, I went to the Marriott Marquis in New York, and there were 5,000 white women at this conference. It was a Romance Writers of America conference, and I saw 10 sisters standing in a group, you know, and you know how we do when we show up. You see us, it's like, let me go over here and find out what's going on first. And these sisters were pecking their necks, so I could tell from across the room that there was a controversial something going on. Well, as it turns out, these authors were Shirley Hillstock, Donna Hill, Frances Ray. It was like the top 10 romance writers of the time. And they were talking about, this is in the middle of the 90s, folks. This isn't like 1890s. This is like 10, 15 years ago. And they were saying how publishing houses were telling them that if a hero was a doctor, he couldn't be black. They had to change the color of their characters up into the middle of the 90s to make him a white hero. Now, I just want to, say this for the men in the room. Romance novels are probably the only place in literature that you're going to find black men held up high.
Right.
Really, because to be a hero, he must have integrity. He must be, upstanding, be, fearless, all these good things. So you get this propaganda that goes out there that romance novels, they are realistic, this and that, and the other. And I'm like, why? I was raised by good black men. That's not unrealistic. My dad was a good black man. I have great uncles. That's why I get my heroes and my guardians for this series from the good black men I grew up with. So if we don't have positive images of good black men and showing healthy relationships between that man and that woman, that's the only place you're allowed to do it. And it's very dangerous. Now, the moment a couple of those authors, and I always give credit to Donna Hill and them, because they kicked the door in and they got their toe in the door. And they held the door open for me because I was a baby, I came behind them. That year, 95 and going into 96, Arabesque was born. Kensington Arabesque, which was an imprint over there. They did so well, the next thing you know, and it was only like 10 or 15 of us writing romance in the beginning. And the beginning being the early 90s. Because Terry McMillan's work is not romance. That was women's fiction, and they had, every guy in there was a negative situation, right? So, but romance has a formula. It has to have a happy ending. The guy has to be a good guy, has to end up with the woman at the end. And a family structure is begun. Now, that said, those 15 authors kicked the door in, so that now there's about 160 black authors. And every single house from Harlequin, which was a known holdout against us, has a Kamani imprint. BET had an imprint for a while, and they sold that to Harlequin. Avon has an imprint. Every single major house, because they were turning down black authors. We, female authors in particular, the men could get in under literature, because they always had, Eldridge Cleaver, Donald Goines, Walter Mosley. They could get in on that side of it. But paperback fiction, like the small, spinners that you see in the airport, which is what is read more than anything else, people want that head escape, we couldn't get in it. So romance, but it had its limitations, because romance had to stay within the confines of the here and now and be a contemporary or be a historical. And there's a fabulous writer who writes historical fiction, and she puts the history in it. Beverly Jenkins, this sister, she goes back and finds the Buffalo Soldiers. She goes back and finds pieces of history, like those people who were freedmen back in the day. And she called me one day, she said, Leslie, she was almost weeping. She said, they said there wasn't no romance back in the day, even when we were in slavery. And she said, I found some letters, because she goes and does that kind of research, where she'll go down to the county courthouse and this and that, and she'll get on a plane and show up somewhere. She said, I found a letter that a man who was a slave had risked his life to learn how to read and write, because let us not forget, if you put your eyes out, if you were reading or caught learning or worse, whatever. He learned how to read and write to pen this very short letter to his lover, who he wanted to marry, risk life and limb to hand it off to somebody else who was going across like 25 miles, which, back in the day by horse and buggy, that wasn't like, rolling down a highway, to get the word to her that I don't care what happens, I'm coming to get you. That's one. Then he was already free. She was still a slave. in order to free his woman, he sold himself back into slavery so that she could be free. Now, that is a romance. Beverly was like, she was like, girl, oh my God, do you know what that is? I mean, so we have acts of heroism, courage. We have so many rich stories just right there. They're not all The Color Purple, where the man is stomping a woman into the dirt. This man sold himself back into slavery to get this woman, and this is a true account. So we have authors that bring those stories out. So now kind of segueing into you know what I do. Octavia Butler always blew my mind. Okay, I say that's somebody. It hurts my heart that she went out of here at 58 years old under spurious circumstances, which I'm like, I still don't understand how she felt like that. But, you know, in any event, Octavia Butler paved the way. So that's a pair of shoulders that I stand on, you know, amongst many, many others, but that's just one. Because she never got her roses while she was here, you know? And they didn't put her face on the back of her books and change her covers, so that people wouldn't know that she was a black woman writing this futuristic, outrageously, just, you know, off the chain kind of work. So I'm like, so she had to hide, you know, her genius almost, you know, and just some of us knew, but it was a small slice of the pie. And it really disturbs me that, you know, a lot of us were reading street fiction instead of giving props to somebody who, she knew rocket science. I mean, you know, Octavia Butler was a physicist kind of mind. You know, this woman was just brilliant beyond imagination. And then, so when the opportunity came about for me to write this, I thought, okay, when we get our chance to put a book in print, and this is sort of my own personal credo, every time they do one of those paperbacks, they do a 50,000 print run. So if they print 50,000 and it goes into a second printing, each one of these books represents about 100,000 readers. Times 12 books, that's 1.2 million people that have this series in their hands. So if I don't put some history in there, and I don't put some politics in there, you know, I've had a right to, you know, play like that. I mean, you'll have a good time. It's not all serious. It's crazy. Now, I'm gonna tell you right now, those who have not read it, it's nuts. All right, but it's almost like you have to do a Charles Dickens and put the truth into what is, this is just a story about children in work camps. You know, this is just a story where old white men in hell are sitting at a table that bleeds black blood, metaphor for oil, hello, and are pulling the strings globally, you know. This is a metaphor for the fact that, you know, I have my heroine at one point say, you know, we could be killing vampires all day and all night, but what's causing them? Where are they coming up from? Because we know that there are systemic ills that are happening. We know that there are things that are causing people to be crazy. We know there are things that are causing people to prey on their own, you know, and lack of opportunities and lack of economic access. We know all this. And we know that there are some blatantly evil things going on in the world. I mean, blatantly. I mean, from the power structure. I mean, I don't have to, I'm sitting among people who understand about the Illuminati and, you know, and all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, I'm able to put all that in there and say, psych! They can't get mad at me. They just cannot get mad at me. Now, this is going to sound really bizarre, but when I began, I would like to say I sat down and I researched everything and I knew where I was going. I can't make that claim. This is how I know there's got to be, you know, ancestors and divine guidance, because I would write something that I thought was just fantasy, and I might, you know, say, girl, that's so crazy. All right, I'm going to leave this there for the moment, and I'm going to keep going in my story. But it sounds like it's too phantasmic to believe, not fantastic, phantasmic, just crazy, right? I'm like, okay, well, it's good fiction. That's what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to spin lore. And then, invariably, somebody, I'd be somewhere like this, or, you know, going to my little store in Philly, and somebody would say, sis, let me tell you about this. And they would give me a piece of research that backed up what I just wrote. And I'm like, wait, wait. So you mean to tell me that what I put in there is really true? Like I didn't make this up? They'd be like, no, let me tell you about the DNA, let me tell you about the pineal gland, let me tell you about, you know, chakras. I'm like, whoa. So this whole series was sort of backward engineered. I'd write something down and then I would get the information, or I would put out there to, you know, people that I knew in different communities on the internet, and then bam, they would send me back exactly what I needed, you know, and or the next thing that I was thinking about writing, I hadn't even asked for it, and it would show up. That happened this morning. This is right here. She got me from the hotel. Okay. All right, and she had a stack of research. I mean, seriously, a stack. It was like a stack of tapes, a stack of books, and a stack of articles. I'm going back down there. I'm like this, going back to Philly. Okay? But little did she know, because she did not know what I was working on next. After I wrapped up this series and I wrapped up the other one, I said, okay, what should I work on next? And angels kept messing with me, you know, like in my head. And I wanted to work on something with black angels. And because, like, wait a minute, everybody's talking about 2012 is going to be this, you know, end of the world and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, nah. I don't think so, because there's other cultures that have survived from the last 26,000 years when this happened. And so maybe it's a spiritual awakening that's going to happen. I'm not sure, you know. And I said, but I need some more information on DNA and the fact that African Americans have more strands of DNA, and getting back to, you know, the goddess principles, and you know, how does that marry to angels? And there's all these different cultures that have seen different kinds of beings that is very much in their belief system. So I need some information. And like I said, she showed up to pick me up and started just kicking it on the way from the hotel, and it's every piece of information I need to work on this next series for Simon & Schuster. So I'm like, wow. Okay, I say, here we go. We're going for another ride, y'all. Okay. I'm like, I'm down. So it has been, you know, I feel privileged to be able to do what I do for a living. And it's the only reason I'm able to do it is because you all support the work. Because if you all don't support the work, then we writers and artists and, you know, whatever, we can't create. You know, we've got to go and do our day job, and maybe you don't get your work out or whatever, but as long as there's demand for the books, they can't cut it off, because the one thing that is sort of like the equalizer is their cash register. Now, they might not like what you write, but as long as the books are popping, they'll keep you in print. They won't, you know, they'll give you a little bit of a headache about it, but if there's steady demand. This is why, should I go here? Yeah, I'm going to go here. Okay, you have people that come out with stuff like the Harry Potter series, Twilight series, whatever. And you have young white kids wrapped around the corner. They're double looped around the corner at 12 midnight dressed up to wait for the bookstore at 12:01 to open its doors. And so those authors, they get to do whatever they want to do. Nobody messes with them. But what happens is we have a lot of schisms in our community. So if it has the word vampire on there, or if it has something, you know, that's science fiction, you know, half of us are not going to let the kid read it you know, because there's concerns, and well, don't give this to your children. This ain't for kids. What I write, I know, I admit, okay, this is hot. But I'm saying if it was a young adult series, and then, you know, then we have others that our kids are kind of moving, just like, you know, hip hop, they're moving toward the street literature. So you don't have mystery writers getting that kind of attention. You don't have sci-fi writers getting that kind of attention. You don't have, even the romance authors are not getting that kind of attention. So basically what happens is we get marginalized in the bookstores and pushed off into a little corner. It means that vampire writers that are not African American come in at 6 and 7 figures a book. I would love to tell you I was doing that, but no, sister, the reason I be writing them so fast is because I gotta keep my lights on. Okay? They're not doing me like that, okay? And it's important because what happens then is the numbers at the bookstores translate into what gets made into film. It's an instant translation. If you have a huge, you know, New York Times #1 following, then you're going to go to the movies, or you're going to go, like a lot of times people say, well, how did True Blood get on there first? Because I really love what you do, and it has more stuff in it. I'm like, but I don't have True Blood sales. That's all it is. It does not have to do with content. It has to do with sales, and it has to do with financing. So, you know, I just say that to you, please, you know, if you have a favorite author, it doesn't have to be me, whoever. Give books for the holidays. Come in your black bookstore and put books under the tree, Kwanzaa, whatever you celebrate. Give them for birthday presents. Try to get them signed by the authors, so that what happens is, if you go to a bookstore and you say, I need to order 1 book, you don't have it on the shelf, they'll bring in 2 or 3. It's the same thing that happened. It's interesting what happened with the comics, you know. When Laurel K. Hamilton, she's a big vampire writer, she came out with her comics, they sold out instantly. And they carried them in Barnes & Noble. Well, they only carry the Vampire Huntress in the comic book stores, and they don't put them out. I found this out just on the road. Issue 1 just came out, they don't put them out. If you go to like Graham Crackers or whatever downtown, when you come here they put them out. They're up on a display, but downtown, they don't put them out. And the guy told me straight to my face, the only reason he had them in was because the Black Age of Comics was having an event, and Total only told him, you have to have these comics, because Eric Battle was down there, and Steve Harris, and me, and there was a bunch of us had a signing down there. So he got the books in for that purpose. And he said, I don't have the room. I only have Marvel and DC. So if you're not with Marvel or DC, and you're with Dynamite or, you know, a smaller independent, I'm not carrying it until people ask me for it, because I have to watch my inventory. See, so there's a lot of things that are still going on with channels of distribution. You know, and I didn't mean to get off on this whole, I'm not even talking about literature, I'm talking all this, you know, philosophical stuff, but this is what is going on. And this is why we really, really need the support. The black authors, I'm telling you, like, genres will dry up and go away. When this, I need to show you this. Let me see if I can find book 1 and book 2. The Awakening. You have The Awakening up there. If not, that's okay. But the second book was about this thick, right? If you took book 1 and book 2 in the series, it was this thick. See how fat the third one is? The first book in the series was this thick. The publisher told me straight to my face, Leslie, I don't know if black vampires are going to fly. We don't know if multicultural vampires are going to fly. So we'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to cut that big fat book you have. You got to cut 350 pages out of it. And we're only going to give you a spine as thin as that first book I showed you. I had this much story. They were going to cut it down to this because of paperweight and shipping. And they were like, they weren't going to give that to me. So I thought, okay, how am I going to work around this? So I sat with my editor and I said, why don't, okay, you know, full story arc goes like this, you know, beginning, middle, and then the end. We cut it right in the middle, right at 12 midnight, all right? And the next book picks up at 12:01, right in the middle of some action. But it was a career risk because some people were going to get to the end of that and be like, where's the rest of the story? All right, and they bombed me on Amazon. You know, like, Banks only gives you half a story for, you know, her $6.99, blah, 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 blah. So it went off. But because y'all supported and people kept buying the book anyway, they released the second book. So by the time the third book came out, they stopped watching me, and that was a mistake, because the first two books are kind of, you know, a little on the conservative side, you know, because they were watching me. But when they were like, okay, go ahead, write whatever you want to write, that third book, it gets stupid and it gets ridiculous from there. But it goes to show you, too, how much power you have here. You have a lot of power at the register. You have a lot of power as a reader. You have a lot of power to decide what you will see in print. And it's very much like the music industry. You know, originally, you know, we had blues and jazz and then R&B and Motown sound and all that kind of stuff, and neo soul. And then when hip hop came, and I'm not dogging hip hop because the early hip hop was message music. It was inspirational. It was revolutionary. Okay, and it was a brand new. I mean, the polyrhythms, the brothers were wordsmiths. It was just, it was real creative. And then all of a sudden, other folks got a hold of it and packaged it and corporatized it, and next thing you know, it became very misogynistic and very negative and very detrimental to the community. But it edged out. It became a thing. Instead of the pie of hip-hop being like this, sitting beside R&B and Motown and soul or whatever, it took up the whole pie, so that then people like Jill Scott and India Ari and whatever, they had a teeny little place to work. And the stuff that they were up against that was getting airtime, it's garbage. I mean, because these other artists had to be able to play an instrument, actually be able to sing, or back in my day had to be able to, you know, do the doo-wop step and harmonize, whether or not the soundtrack behind you worked or not. You had to get the people in shows. You get booed in Philly. I don't know how y'all did it in Chicago, but I'm pretty sure y'all are gangster like we were. You'd be like, boo! Not when somebody sung on key, right? So, you know, at the Apollo, they will hook you. I mean, you know, we have tough audiences because we have talented people. And, you know, if you made it off the corner doo-wopping, you had to be better than everybody else's corner. You had to be the penultimate of whatever, right? So this is the same thing that has happened to books. You started off and you had Octavia Butler out there, and you had all these different people, and you know, and the diaspora of writing was wide, and then all of a sudden you had seminal works like The Coldest Winter Ever. That was like street fiction that came in the next wave. Donald Williams being first wave, but second wave and Soul on Ice and all that kind of stuff was first wave. But in the new era, you had seminal works just like you had seminal hip hop. You know, and she set the Olympic bar. I mean, wow, what a literary piece. And then everything else started flooding into the market. And it was not the same. It wasn't the same quality, it wasn't edited, da-da-da-da-da, and it started edging out other genres. So now, you know, those of us who are in the smaller slice, we're trying to fight back. We're trying to edge open the market, but it requires, you know, support from you all. So I just want to thank you. That's what I'm saying. You all came out on a sunny Sunday afternoon where I know people got stuff to do. The weekend is limited time, and you know, and you came out, and it's really an honor to be here. It's an honor to have the work carried in the store like Afriware, because this is where, like, the independent handoff, like, people can tell somebody else, and when individuals come in the store and say, "Sis, why you got this crazy mess up here on your counter?" She's got an answer for that, and try to make people understand that she hasn't sold out to the people who believe in the principles of why she's here. You know, it's an education process, and it's very hard. It's very hard to get it all out there. So I'm just trying to make sure I'm watching time here. But any questions? You know, this is interactive. This is your time. Whatever you want to ask. Yeah. Ah, interesting. Now, okay. Okay, when am I going to do another novel like the Trust series? I had a series, it's a 4-book crime series with Kensington. It's called Betrayal of the Trust, it's book 1. Then it's Blind Trust, it's Shattered Trust, and No Trust. And it's dealing with politics in the inner city. Then it takes it on a federal level, it deals with Katrina and the politics of all of that. And it's let me say, and it's a black female Robin Hood, basically. She steals from the rich and she gives to the poor, and she ties them all up with their paperwork and works like, sort of like the spook who sat by the door. Yes. Okay, right. But that one was so out there in terms of like in your face. You know they canceled my series? Yeah. I mean, they told me 4 and done. Now the other day, who was it? Another independent bookstore, the Book Joint. They said they tried to call the warehouse, and the warehouse said they don't have no more. Okay? And, you know, it's interesting because she said, I'm trying to get a hold of the books, but I'm calling my different distributors because I know somebody bought, you know, stockpiles of them. I have to find them. But here, she's got to go through a change to get all 4 of them so people can read them in order. And because it breaks down politics and how the money trickles down from the feds to the state to the city. And it also deals with something that we don't like to talk about, because I used to work in the backdrop of that for years. How we have folks who are elected officials that are our color, but they're in our kind.
That's right.
Okay? And it calls them out. Okay? It calls them out. It calls them out hard, and I have an extra disdain for them because we understand who these other folks are. But when you call the black card and you call us out there to stomp and march and protest for you, only to find out that you are just lining your pockets and doing things that are not in the best interest of our community, just so you can get the next, you know, Mercedes out there. I don't have no love for you. So I put them all on blast, and everybody I put on blast, I had to change the names of Philadelphia elected officials too, so that I can still live in Philly. I had to have my house fire brown, but yeah. But that's what happened in the Trust series. Yes, sir.
A follow-up to that question. When a book company, you say Kensington, they have the rights to those books. So if they don't want them because you sold to them, if they don't want them published, they can't be published again? Is that the way it works?
No, what I have to...
Do you have the artistic right to say, if you don't want to publish them, I can publish them elsewhere?
Right, there's a time period. So I think it's 5 years or something like that. I have to wait until I can get my copyright back. But once the copyright reverts back to me, I can put them out. And my plan is, see, now that we have e-publishing,
right, that's right. Yes.
You know, that's a game changer. The technology is a game changer. Because all I have to do is take that book and hand it off to somebody who does that, who can put it in electronic format, and boom.
Actually, that's first of all, thank you for coming.
Oh, thank you.
And I have to admit, I'm like Nzinga. I'm sorry, I was a non-fiction reader. I don't take time to read fiction, but my friends did the same. And actually, it was my aunt who reads fiction, and I got an honor to meet Octavia Butler before she died, and we got sludgy.
Oh,
so, and we were supposed to read together, and she read. So, because me and my non-fiction mindset. So, I have to admit, I'm in the same boat, and you know, us so-called nationalists gotta get over ourselves sometimes, and we can't do this. But I want you to talk a little bit more, because I feel you on this game changing, but I'm starting to see it where they're going to the ebook and the iPad is out and people are reading books online now, you know, on their iPad or the little apparatus they have for. My daughter has one, you know. I don't read like that. So I want you to talk about how maybe you can get more of your things done that way and get away from the distribution, you know, overseers, if you will, so you can get directly to the people, because we are starting to change who we are. You know, we're not just myopic now, and you know, we're in it. Somebody in here, everybody's in here knows Facebook or Twitter, whether you like it or not.
True.
You do it, or some of us try to stay away from it. But you know, but we're inundated. So I feel that what you're doing, and people like you and Octavia Butler, I'm really proud of. And you made me see that I need to be more vigilant about it. But I want you to talk a little bit about what you can do with that whole new iPad thing.
Sure, and that's a fabulous question. The iPad, again, is a game changer in this regard. I was just at the Black Comics Convention. It costs almost $60,000, you know, some of the brothers were telling me, to put out a comic book, full inks. You know, I mean, it's color. I mean, it's color printing. It's not even like text. Text is cheap comparatively, right? So a lot of them have beautiful artwork that you'll never see, because other than if they're touring around and they're at festivals, because they can't afford to take those beautiful big drawings that they have in their portfolios and actually put them into a book and then print up enough so that they get around to all the stores. But these guys have, like, you talk about revolutionary stuff. I mean, like on the level of Brother Man comics. I mean, they got stuff that is, you know, and Shendo has some stuff about warriors in Africa. I mean, you've got people that are drawing Black Hannibal, marching over the Alps with elephants and stomping on French towns. I mean, you got stuff. I saw stuff at this comic book. But the iPad is a visual piece. So they now can upload their work, and they can create either webisodes or graphic comic books, e-comic books. That's one way. The other way is, now I could actually go, and I may have to do this for like I had a young adult series set up to come out after this. Publishers canceled it. They were like, you know, when you go after the minds of children, and you make kids believe that they are powerful, oh, you have, you know, you don't bump your head as far as they're concerned. All right. So if I do, now I have all the people on my database that read this. So if I say, y'all, I got the kids, but I don't have it in a book, I have it on a Kindle, or you can download it or whatever, I'm mighty sure that I can, you know, get people to do that if I have to go that way. So that's what the game changer is. It's like even self-publishing was very cost prohibitive. You know, some people don't have $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 to actually self-publish their own book. And even with that, we're talking about you're still fighting the distribution monster, right? So if you self-publish, that means you got to go around to every store, and the chains will not carry self-published work anymore. They will not. You cannot get into BNN or Borders or Walmart and Walgreens and CVS. Forget it. All right. The only reason I got into Walmart is because there was a sister named Pam Nelson, who was the vice president over there at the distribution company that feeds into Walmart, and she saw my work. She was like, "Girl, come in here." And a closed door meeting. She was like, "Look, we're gonna do this thing." And because she saw me at the St. Louis Black Book Festival, all right, and she picked me up and she put me in Walmart, and next thing my life changed because one gatekeeper kicked the door open and let me in. All right, so thank you. So now, but see, now the internet levels the playing field. It's just like what when a change in technology did for the movie industry. Now you can go straight to DVD and pump that on the internet, right? Because you can shoot a movie in digital. The Blair Witch Project, they spent like maybe $100,000 and made something like $20–30 million the first thing. all right? The people for what was it, Paranormal Activity, that movie, that was another one of those. I'm not talking about the content, but I'm saying, look at the business structure of what they did, okay? And how they were able to use, you know, digital technology cheaper, so they didn't have to go through Hollywood, like you said, the gatekeepers. They went out there in the woods with some old crazy, stupid script, holding the camera all shaky, screaming, running with a flashlight under their face, and they made $10 million. I ain't mad at them, okay? So it's the same thing will happen with books. Right now, these books are available for download on Kindle, but I had to go through the gatekeeper. But now, if I don't like what they're going to put in my books or how they're going to edit my books, I could go get an editor, independent editor, rework it out, my content is the way I want to, and I can launch it on the internet. And I can keep all the money. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, it's going to change totally. Yes, sir.
If you decide to go even with books, would you go back to your publisher and say the next book will be in? Or is there a liability of being dropped with Kensington?
No, I'm with St. Martin's Press, and yeah, there's politics. Like if I, Lord have mercy, yeah. You know, they will always put you out. They will kick you out and say, you know, now as it is, I'm out of contract.